how to prepare and qualify the IBC and valuation exam of IBBI. Now, friends, I'm sure all of you would have noticed that in recent past, the government of India has brought out many reforms, many big reforms, which is changing the landscape of India's economy completely. Some of the reforms, or three of the reforms, which are impacting all of us directly, and those three reforms are the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, Valuation Rules, and Independent Director. So these are the three reforms where we as company secretaries or chartered accountants or cost accountants or lawyers or in case of valuation MBAs, we are directly impacted by these reforms. And why we are directly impacted by these three reforms, and that is because the government of India, first time since independence, had shown the true trust, faith, and confidence in we professionals. Meaning what? Meaning for the implementation and execution of these three reforms, that is the Insolvency Code, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, Valuation Rules, and the Independent Director, the government of India has not used the bureaucracy. The government of India has not used people appointed by the government, but has given this responsibility, this task to we professionals. And therefore, these reforms come to us as a big professional opportunity. And please remember, not only these reforms come to us as a big professional opportunity, but they also come with a lot of responsibility. Lot of responsibility, lot of duty, lot of things to perform, lot of results to show. And that is what is the expectation of the government of India behind bringing out these three reforms. Today and tomorrow, we are going to discuss two of these reforms. Not only we are going to discuss two of these reforms, but our focus between today and tomorrow is going to be number one, to understand as to what these two reforms are. Number one, the valuation rules, and number two, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So firstly, we understand as to what these reforms are, why these reforms became necessary for the government of India to bring them, and also understand as to how to prepare and qualify for both these exams, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy exam as well as the valuation exam. Incidentally, I was working with a company called ArcelorMittal, and I left them because I had worked with them for 6 years. And in those 6 years, I had the opportunity of traveling the globe 4 times and delivering, as Ashish Bhai was mentioning, delivering these programs in more than 50 locations across the globe. Somehow I felt that it's time for me to come back to India and focus on India. So I started practicing as a chartered accountant, and then I saw the Insolvency and Bankruptcy code was brought by the government of India, and I could see that this was a wonderful opportunity where I could make direct impact, and therefore I appeared for that exam, passed that exam. But when I appeared for that exam and passed that exam, I realized that this exam, the insolvency exam and also the evaluation exam, are some of the toughest exam which I have ever appeared. But at the same time, I could see that these two exams need a strategy to pass them. I came across many people, many professional brothers and sisters who were attempting these two exams but not able to pass for whatever reason. So when I qualified both these exams, I thought why not to put this strategy in writing and share it with everyone so that everyone can also prepare themselves for both these exams in a systematic manner and pass this exam. And this is how this idea came to me, and which now is available in front of you in the form of a presentation. So I'm going to present these two sessions today and tomorrow in a very systematic manner. So what we are going to do, number one, today we will understand as to what these three major reforms are, which have been brought in by the government of India with a clear-cut objective, and that objective is to achieve enhancement of good corporate governance in this country. Number two, we will understand as to what is the background for these three reforms and many other reforms in this country. Now, friends, having passed these exams and now practicing as an insolvency professional and also as a valuation professional and also as an independent director, I can tell you, even for passing these exams, you will need to first understand as to what is the root cause for the government of India to bring these reforms. Now, once you are clear about the reason and the purpose and the objective for which the government of India has brought these reforms, I am sure you would realize that your preparation for these exams also becomes very easy, also becomes very systematic, and you would be able to really prepare well and pass these exams. Not only pass these exams, but also successfully start practicing as a valuation professional as well as an insolvency professional. So we will understand as to what is the background behind these reforms, the valuation rules as well as the insolvency code, and also the independent director as well. Then we would look at as to introduction to business valuation. Friends, I can tell you, I came across many, as I was mentioning little while ago, I came across many professional brothers and sisters who had appeared for the valuation exam for 18 times, 19 times, 20 times, yet they were not able to pass. And that is because, as I said, you needed a systematic approach. And therefore, to help you further to get yourself ready for preparing for this exam, I would also introduce in brief the business valuation as a subject, as a topic. And my idea behind making this introduction is to give you a heads up in your preparation. So once you have some pre-background, I'm sure when you start preparing yourself for the valuation exam, you would find that your comprehension, your understanding of different things that you're going to read and learn has become very easy. I can tell you, friends, the course curriculum for both these exams, the insolvency exam as well as the valuation exam, is extremely vast. It is much more vast than the course of the chartered accountancy or the company secretary and or the cost accountancy. It is so vast, and plus you have to cover the entire course curriculum is tested in just 2 hours. So you can imagine. So I will try and give you some WhatsApp heads up on what is business valuation so that you are able to prepare well. Then we would talk about the opportunities available to the valuation professional. So once you become a qualified valuation professional, what are the opportunities which are available to you? And then we will come to the strategy as to how to prepare for the exam and how to pass the exam. And then we would talk in brief as to what is the future for the valuation profession. I can tell you at the outset that the future for the valuation profession is huge. And let me give you an idea. In the year 21, the M&A turnover, the volume of M&A turnover across the globe has has crossed the size of $5 trillion. And you can imagine, if the M&A size has crossed the mark of $5 trillion, by default, the valuation as an activity is even much bigger than the M&A size. Why? Because M&A is only M&A, but the valuation will not only include M&A, but it will include every other thing for which valuations are done. So the future is absolutely huge. We will understand as to what kind of options are available in future. And finally, friends, we will have some time for the question and answer, and this is what is going to be our plan for today. After that, we will tomorrow we will discuss about we would start the session with the introduction to the insolvency and bankruptcy code. Again, the same idea, just to give you a heads up before you start preparing for the insolvency and bankruptcy exam and start reading. I would like to give you some idea about it so that it becomes a launch pad for you and you are able to prepare well. You are able to comprehend the various sections and then the rules and the schedules in a much better and effective manner. Then we would talk about how to the strategy of the insolvency exam preparation. opportunities available for the insolvency professionals in this country, and what are the skill sets required for being a successful insolvency professional. And this is what I'm going to share with you based on my experience, and that is what we will do tomorrow. That of course will again be followed by question and answer session. Now, what is the purpose of these sessions? As I have mentioned already, the purpose of these sessions today and tomorrow is to help all the participants, all the aspirants of the valuation profession and the insolvency profession to prepare themselves well and also to pass the exam well. And not only that, but also become a successful valuation professional, become a successful insolvency professional, and do well for yourself. So that is the purpose of these session that we have between today and tomorrow. What are the three reforms? As I mentioned to you, these three reforms are insolvency and bankruptcy code, valuation rules, and the independent director. Independent director. Uh, Unfortunately or incidentally, many times the government brings out a lot of good reforms, but for some reason they also roll back, and that is, or they tend to change their stand and the approach, and that is where it becomes a little difficult to be effective. So we would also understand with regard to the reform about the independent director. Now, what we need to remember, friends, before I move forward, and I would like to highlight this time and again, and why I would like to highlight this time and again, because if this understanding becomes clear in the minds of every one of us as to why these reforms have been brought out by the government of India, our drive and our motivation to qualify these exams becomes that much stronger. So these reforms have been brought by the government of India because the government of India is of the view that there is a need for enhancement of good corporate governance in this country. Somehow the government of India was of the view that there's a lot that needs to be done. Of course, the government of India has taken so many initiatives in last 7-8 years to improve the level of corporate governance in this country, and it is in that direction that these three reforms have been brought. And remember, these three reforms have been brought out by the government of India, not because the government is worried about the chartered accountants, cost accountants, and company secretaries and want to offer them another stream of the cash flow for them. No, the government of India has posed trust, faith, and confidence in every one of us, and because they feel that all these reforms can be very effectively implemented only with the help of these three or four categories of professionals. Let us quickly understand, friends, as to what is the background for these three reforms. Friends, let me tell you at this point in time, as professionals, as professionals, whether we company secretary or chartered accountant or cost accountant or lawyer or architect or engineer, doesn't really matter. As a professional, we have many responsibilities, we have many obligations to fulfill. What those responsibilities are, what those obligations are. Those responsibilities start, number one, responsibility towards yourself, toward myself. So I have a responsibility, number one, towards myself. That means what? That means I need to ensure that I keep myself mentally fit and physically fit and also knowledge fit. So mentally fit, you understand, physical fitness also you understand, and when I say knowledge fit, I have to keep, that means what? That means as a professional, as a chartered accountant, company secretary, cost accountant, MBA, or lawyer, I need to ensure that I keep myself completely abreast with the developments which are taking place in the economy. The second responsibility that we have is towards our family. Third responsibility that we have is towards our profession. Fourth responsibility that we have is towards the society at large. And the fifth responsibility that we have is towards the economy of this country. As a professional, the fifth responsibility that we have is towards the economy of this country. And why is that so? Because as a company secretary, as a chartered accountant, as a cost accountant, as an MBA, as a lawyer, we understand the economy much, much better than most of the people all across. And that is why we need to not only understand the economy, but we also need to spread awareness about the economy, not only spread awareness about the economy, but also ensure that everything is done in this country so that the economy of this country improves by leaps and bounds. So, in this context, we need to understand as to what is the background for these three reforms. Have you ever thought as to what has been the size of the NPAs in this country? कभी आपने सोचा, कभी अंदाज लगाया कि हमारे देश में NPAs का साइज कितना रहा है? I am sure most of you would have heard it many times, and most of you would think that the size of the NPAs in our country is 10 lakh, 15 lakhs, or whatever. But let me tell you, friends, the size of NPAs in this country since independence has been to the tune of 52 lakh crore. Yes, you have heard me right. It is 52 lakhs crore. Meaning what? Meaning जब से हमारा देश आज़ाद हुआ तब से लेके हमारी बैंकों ने जो NPAs किए वो 52 लाख करोड़ के थे. And please remember, this is not what I am saying. This is what our Prime Minister, this statement was given by our Prime Minister on the floor of the House, that is in Lok Sabha, and he said that when we came to power, we realized that the NPA condition of our country was not as bad as we thought. And he said further, and he said, we realized that our NPA condition was much worse than what we had thought. And he said that our NPA condition was so bad that consciously we decided not to talk about it to anyone. And why did he say that? He said that because he said that if we would have let the world know as to how bad our NPA condition was, even if somebody was to come to help us, he would not come to our help because our situation was so worse. And he further stated, and he said that since independence, till the time when he made this statement on the floor of the House, he said if the banks lent 100 rupees to the industry in this country, what really came back to them was just 18 rupees. Just 18 rupees. That means 82 rupees of the money that was lent by the banks in this country since independence became NPA, non-performing asset. Now the question is why we have had so huge NPAs in our country. क्यों ऐसा हुआ कि हमारे देश में 52 लाख करोड़ के NPAs क्रिएट हुए. And friends, that is where you and I as a professional have to be more attentive. Got to be more attentive, and not only need to be more attentive, but also need to be more vigilant. Unfortunately or incidentally, knowingly or unknowingly, the policies that we've pursued in this country since independence, unfortunately, were not bringing growth and development in the economy of the country. Rather, they were helping in generation of corruption in this country. Have you realized that the Japan and India, we both got independence around the same time. Japan got independence in May 1947 and we got independence on 15th August 1947. Where is Japan today and where we are today? Japan today is a developed country which has already crossed the mark of 5 trillion economy. We, despite being such a huge country, are still struggling to become a developed country. Today, Japan is supplying metro to us and we are trying to purchase metro, or we are purchasing metro from Japan. Have you ever thought why did it happen? And remember friends, it happened because the policies that the leaders in Japan pursued since independence in their country was to build nationalism, build patriotism, build a nationalistic attitude in the minds of everyone. And unfortunately, the kind of policies that we pursued in our country of controlled economy, license Raj, inspector Raj, what did it result into? It resulted into India's culture becoming the culture of corruption. Unfortunately or incidentally, in our country, we garlanded the corrupt and mocked at the honest. जो एक व्यापारी था जो एक ट्रेडर था, जो एक बिजनेसमैन था, हमने उसका मजाक उड़ाया, हमने उसको चोर कहा, हमने उसको टैक्स चोर कहा एंड व्हाट नॉट. And the people who were corrupt, we would garland them and all that. As a result of this, the industry, the banking, all the unscrupulous politicians, all the unscrupulous businessmen, all the unscrupulous bankers, all the unscrupulous bureaucrats, all the unscrupulous professionals, and all the unscrupulous media. So six of these people came together, and they were the reason behind this 52 lakhs crore of NPAs in this country. And now please remember, this 52 lakhs crore is not a number. Please understand, it is not a number. It is a big setback to the economy of this country. Why? If this 52 lakh crore of the NPA, if this money was flowed back into the infrastructure of this company, you can imagine that today we are aiming and targeting to become a $5 trillion economy. If this 52 lakh crore of the NPAs were flowed back into the infrastructure of this company, can you imagine that we would have become, number one, a $5 trillion economy much ago, and number two, the kind of infrastructure, the kind of facilities which the people of this country would have enjoyed would have been absolutely phenomenal. And therefore, the leadership thought the time has come when this NPA menace has to be curbed, number one, and corrected. Curbed and number one, corrected. And that is how the government thought of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. I'm going to talk more about it tomorrow when I cover this subject of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. But at this point in time, I would just like to mention that the intent of the government of India behind bringing the IBC was twofold. And what was this twofold? This purpose was, number one, to make the law in such a way that the tendency of the assets becoming NPA is curbed forthwith. Number two is to bring control and check on all the unscrupulous politicians, bankers, businessmen, professionals, bureaucrats, media, and all of them, so that there is the further generation of NPAs it put to an end. Number three, all the bad assets that were lying in the economy, all the companies where crores of investment was made, but those companies were not operational, the government thought it's time to make those assets operational so that they are able to start contributing to the economy of this country. And that is how this law was brought. And this law, not only this law was brought, but this law was brought with a definite time frame that we'll discuss tomorrow. And number two, the government thought, in case for any reason, if a company cannot be turned around, if the insolvency of a company cannot be resolved, then the law provided that then in that case this company will have to go for compulsory liquidation. And please remember, again, what was the intent? The intent was, if a bad asset is not resolved, it is not turned around, then liquidate that company so that those assets are bought by some people, and those people are able to use these assets, and thereby these assets are also able to contribute to the economy of this country. And this was the background as far as the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code was concerned. Number two, a question that I would like to ask all of you, and I would like that all of you must think and apply your mind to this question. Whose failure has majorly contributed towards these NPAs and why? In your view, of course, I have cited these six set of people who contribute, who gang together and were the chief cause of the NPAs in this country. But there is another group which can be identified very clearly for this failure, and you know which that group is. So when you hear of a company like ILFS, Satyam, PNB, DHFL, PMC Bank, ABG Shipyard, a recent case, Chanda Kochar of ICICI, and Chitra Ramakrishnan of NSE, recent case. Have you ever thought as to what is the reason? Who are the people who have failed these companies or companies like these? And friends, I am sure you would come to one conclusion, that the board of directors of these companies and companies like these in the past have been the prime culprit behind the failures of all these companies. Now, to curb people like these and keep a check and balance on people like these, on the boards of companies like these, the government of India also brought out a second reform, and that is independent director. Very rightly conceived, rightly brought out, where again the idea was to make the professionals, the idea was to give the responsibility of professionals like company secretaries, chartered accountants, cost accountants with requisite experience to be to come on the boards of the company as independent director and be a control and check and balance on rest of the board. Unfortunately and incidentally, with the intent is good, but the drive with which it must be executed is completely missing. In my view, it would have served a better purpose if the government of India would have said to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs or to SEBI or to any other body appointed for this purpose that only qualified people can be appointed as an independent director, and the independence of appointing such independent director will also not be given to the board of directors. But this is how it is. So obviously you can always find ways and means for people to keep themselves away from the real independent director, and that is how the whole purpose is again defeated. I hope and pray that it would be understood by the government, and they would really think that the real professionals with no involvement of the concerned company be appointed on the board of directors as independent director, so that they are able to do a effective job of an independent director. Otherwise, the cases like ABG Shipyard or NSE or PMC or DHFL or ILFS or so many of them will keep cropping up. And unfortunately, only thing what will happen, the cases will happen for some time, people will talk about them and then they will forget about them. And the rot will continue, and this rot is going to cause harm to the economy of this country. The third reform is the valuation rules. Now, friends, I'm sure you should know the background behind the valuation rules. Why is that the government of India has thought of this reform of the valuation rule? Now, please understand, all the corporate decisions which are taken, there is always a consideration involved, and by playing with those consideration, a lot of malpractices can take place, have taken place, had taken place in the past. To give you an example of Kingfisher, we all know about the Kingfisher. You know, Kingfisher was given loans by the banks in this country against collateral of what? Against collateral of the brand valuation of Kingfisher. And you know what was the loan amount? The loan amount was 750 crore. A brand which has got no tangibility, remember, was used for giving loan to Kingfisher, and what happened to Kingfisher is known to every one of us. Meaning what? Meaning in the past, the valuations were used by unscrupulous businessmen and all the in many stakeholders for the purpose of getting unfair advantage or unfair benefit from the banks and from different other sectors. And therefore, the government thought that there is a need to standardize the valuation in this country so that there is a genuineness in the valuations which are done and which are used by the corporates in this country for the purpose of decision making, and who you think can be a better person to perform this job of being a valuation professional. Obviously, the government has trusted the company secretaries, the chartered accountants, cost accountants, and MBAs with finance background to the valuation as far as the financial assets and securities are concerned. For the land and building and plant and machinery, they have trusted to the civil engineers, architects, and engineers. So that is the reason as to why this third reform that we are going to discuss now of valuation has been brought by the government. So please remember, the government has not brought out the valuation rules with an objective to provide an opportunity to be company secretaries, chartered accountants, cost accountants, and MBAs of earning more revenue. They have come out with this reform, given this responsibility to every one of us, because they think that we will do the valuation in the most fair way. And that is why we would ensure that the currency of this country is neither wrongly taken out or wrongly misused or wrongly parked outside. And that is the responsibility that you have. Now, friends, this is the background behind these three reforms and many other reforms that the government of India has brought out in this country. My urge and request and appeal to every one of you will be, when you aspire to become a valuation professional, when you aspire to become an insolvency professional, when you aspire to become an independent director on the board of a company, remember this background, because if you remember this background, my friends, is going to help you in delivering your role in a most effective and efficient way. Let's now discuss the valuation exam of IBBI. And what we're going to do, we are going to discuss this valuation exam of IBBI with the introduction of business valuation. दोस्तों, मैं आपको बताऊं कि जब मैंने वैल्यूएशन एग्ज़ाम को लिखने का डिसाइड किया तो and when I appeared for it first time, I did not pass the exam. I failed. And when I failed, then of course I had to prepare again. And when I was preparing, the material which is available on this subject, I found was quite confusing. Quite confusing. And why quite confusing? Because some of the terms were so interconnected, so similar, that you would always wonder as to what is the meaning of these two terms. And therefore, first I will give you a clear understanding as to what is business valuation, which I am sure will speed up your preparation for the valuation exam. So I wish we were able to do this session face to face, then it could have been interactive. So what is value? And I'm sure if I would have asked this question as to what is value to every one of you would have given a definition from your perspective, from your understanding. And I'm sure all of you would have been right, of course. So what is value? Remember, it's very simple. Value is quantification of utility of an asset in money terms is value. Value is what? Value is utility of an asset. तो कोई एसेट है, उसकी जो यूटिलिटी है वो उसकी वैल्यू है. कोई एसेट है, वो उसकी जो यूटिलिटी है वो उसकी वैल्यू है. अब देखिए, कोई एसेट है और उसकी कोई यूटिलिटी नहीं है तो उसकी वैल्यू क्या होगी? उसकी वैल्यू ज़ीरो होगी. क्यों ज़ीरो होगी? क्योंकि वो एसेट तो है लेकिन उसकी कोई यूटिलिटी नहीं है. एक पत्थर पड़ा है सड़क के ऊपर, है ना, और सबको मालूम है कि ये इस पत्थर का कोई यूज़ नहीं है. तो पत्थर एसेट तो है लेकिन वो पत्थर की वैल्यू ज़ीरो है. लेकिन उधर से एक स्कल्प्टर, एक मूर्ति बनाने वाला, वो निकलता है और उसकी निगाह उस पत्थर पे पड़ती है. और जैसे ही उसकी निगाह उस पत्थर पे पड़ती है, उसको लगता है अरे इस पत्थर में से तो भगवान की बड़ी सुंदर मूर्ति निकाली जा सकती है. एंड रिमेंबर, ये जो पत्थर जिसको कि अब तक कुछ भी वैल्यू का नहीं समझ रहे थे, उसकी वैल्यू जीरो थी और बराबर जीरो थी। बिकॉज अगर वो ये जो मूर्ति बनाने वाला था वो अगर 2-4 दिन नहीं आता था तो हो सकता है कि कॉरपोरेशन के लोग इस पत्थर को उठा के कहीं और फेंक देते थे, तो तब तक उसकी वैल्यू जीरो जीरो ही रहती क्योंकि उसकी कोई यूटिलिटी नहीं थी। लेकिन आज जब ये मूर्ति बनाने वाले ने इस पत्थर को देखा तो इसकी वैल्यू बढ़ गई। सो व्हाट इज वैल्यू? प्लीज रिमेंबर एंड रिमेंबर दिस फॉर वेरी क्लियर इन योर माइंड। एंड व्हाई आई एम सेइंग दिस, बिकॉज एक बार आपके दिमाग में वैल्यू का कंसेप्ट बराबर बैठ गया तो वैल्यूएशन का एग्जाम पास करना तो आपके लिए बहुत आसान होगा ही होगा। उसके अलावा जब आप वैल्यूएशन प्रोफेशनल बन जाएंगे तो आपको अपने जो असाइनमेंट जो एग्जीक्यूट करेंगे उनको एग्जीक्यूट करने में भी बड़ी आसानी होगी। सो व्हाट इज वैल्यू? वैल्यू इज यूटिलिटी ऑफ एन एसेट। एंड व्हाट इज वैल्यूएशन? Valuation is quantification of this utility in terms of money is valuation, right? So what is value? Value is utility of an asset. An asset will have a value only if it has certain utility. अगर एक एसेट की कोई यूटिलिटी नहीं है उसकी वैल्यू जीरो है, लेकिन अगर कोई एसेट की यूटिलिटी है इसका मतलब उसकी कुछ वैल्यू है। तो वो वैल्यू क्या है ये फाइंड आउट करना इज वैल्यूएशन। So what do you do in valuation? In valuation, you are simply quantifying utility of an asset in money terms, and that is valuation. Now the question is, why do you do valuation? Why valuation? Why valuation? And I would have loved to ask this question to every one of you. But let me tell you, the answer to this question is very simple. And the answer to this question is, why do we do valuation? We do valuation for the purpose of taking decisions. Yeah. So we do valuation for the purpose of taking decision. So जब भी आप कोई valuation कर रहे हैं, remember, whenever you are doing a valuation, you are not doing a Excel exercise. You're not doing something on paper. You're not playing with the number. Please remember, when you're doing valuation, what you are doing, you're trying to quantify utility of an asset in money terms. And please understand, why are you trying to quantify utility of an asset in money terms? Because somebody has to take a decision about that asset. So why do we do valuation? We do valuation for the purpose of decision making, isn't it? तो जब भी कोई वैल्यूएशन करवाता है तो क्यों करवाता है? इसलिए नहीं क्योंकि उसको करवाना है, वो इसलिए करवाता है क्योंकि उसको कोई डिसीजन लेना है। दो कंपनियां हैं, मर्ज होने की सोच रही हैं, these two companies will go for the valuation. And why these companies will go for the valuation? Because they need to decide as to what should be the swap ratio, what should be the exchange ratio. एक कोई कंपनी है, the company is wanting to come out with an IPO. Now the company is wanting to come out with an IPO. This company will go for the valuation. And why will this company go for the valuation? Because this company wants to fix the price of its IPO. So I'm repeating it once again. Number one, what is value? Value is utility of an asset. Number two, what is valuation? Valuation is quantification of this utility in terms of money terms. And number three, why do we do valuation? We do valuation because we want to take a decision. So please remember, decision making is the crux of valuation. Decision making is the crux of the valuation. Please remember, anybody, anywhere will do valuation only when he has to take a decision. If a person does not have to take a decision, then you will not do a valuation. And that's your question number 3. Now question number 4, how to do valuation? A valuation करेंगे कैसे? What is the process for doing valuation? We understand what is value. We understand what is valuation. We understand why do we do valuation. But now the question is how to do valuation. And let me tell you friends, we will do valuation by using certain approaches. So what are the approaches that we use for the purpose of valuation? The approaches that we use for the purpose of valuation, number one is the income approach. Number one is the income approach. No rocket science, and you can very easily understand why the income approach is called as an income approach. Income approach is called as an income approach because the basis for valuation of an asset based on the income approach is income. तो इनकम अप्रोच, जब इनकम के बेसिस पर आप किसी एसेट की वैल्यूएशन करते हैं, इनकम के ऊपर आप किसी लायबिलिटी की वैल्यूएशन करते हैं, दैट मीन्स इट इज इनकम अप्रोच. नाउ अंडर द इनकम अप्रोच देयर आर 2 methods. Method number 1 is income capitalization method. Income capitalization method, remember, is also known as PECV method. एंड व्हाट इज PECV मेथड? PECV मेथड का मतलब है प्रॉफिट अर्निंग कैपेबिलिटी वैल्यूएशन. सो आप उसको इनकम कैपिटलाइजेशन मेथड कहिए, आप उसको PECV प्रॉफिट अर्निंग कैपेबिलिटी वैल्यूएशन कहिए, दोनों का मतलब एक ही है. So what do you do in case of the income capitalization or PECV method? Of course, it's very simple. You will find out as to what is the normal income of this business, of this company, and you will find out as to what is your return expectation, what is your cost of capital, what is your expected rate of return, and you will capitalize the normal income that you have computed of this company by your rate of return, expected rate of return, and the outcome is value of that business. So that is your method number one, that is in income capitalization, or it is PECV, profit earning capability valuation method. The second method under the income approach is known as discounted cash flow method, which I am sure all of you must have heard 10,000 times by now. Discounted cash flow method is the second method under the income approach that is used for the purpose of valuation. Now, how do you do valuation using the discounted cash flow method? So what you do, you find out the projected cash flow of the asset for which you want to do the valuation. You find out the projected cash flow of the asset for which you want to do the valuation. And now you convert this future cash flows in terms of present value. In terms of present value. And total of all the present values for all the years put together is your value of the business or the company as per the discounted cash flow method. Please remember, the value that you find out using the discounted cash flow method is also referred as intrinsic value. So कहने का क्या मतलब है? कहने का मतलब ये है कि जब आप डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो मेथड को यूज करते हैं तो आप क्या फाइंड आउट करते हैं? आप फाइंड आउट करते हैं intrinsic value, and that is the value of that business which is based on the projected cash flows or future cash flows. Friends, in my view, when you start practicing, in my understanding and in my view, discounted cash flow method is most dependable, most reliable, most accurate method of valuing an asset. Whether that asset is tangible or intangible doesn't really matter. Only thing that you need to do, you need to ensure that the cash flows that you have projected are as accurate as possible. They are as accurate as possible. That means all the assumptions that you would have made for finding out as to how much sales I'm going to generate over the life of this asset, how much expenses I'm going to incur over the life of this assets, how much overheads I'm going to incur over the life of this assets, how much interest cost I'm going to incur over the life of this assets. So you should be able to project the future cash flows as accurately as possible. If you are able to do that, there is a full possibility that you would be arriving at the value of this company which is as accurate as it can be. The second factor that you will also need to take into account, that the cost of capital that you will use for the purpose of discounting the future cash flows again has to be as precise as possible based on your return expectation and based on your perception of the risk in that business. So that's your income approach. The second approach that we have is the market approach. So I'm sure no rocket science, you can very easily understand. The moment you say market approach, now what does it mean? It simply means that under the market approach, you do the valuation of an asset based on the market information, and that is why it is known as market approach. Market approach is also referred as a relative method of valuation. And why it is referred as a relative method of valuation? Because many a times when you're trying to value an asset or when you're trying to value one company, you're trying to value of this company vis-a-vis value of another company. That means you're trying to find value of a company in relation to another company, and that is why market approach in many cases is also referred as a relative approach or relative method of relative approach of valuation or relative method of valuation. So under the market approach, there are two methods. There are many methods, but broadly two methods. One is comparable company method. So comparable company method mean what? It would mean that you are trying to do the valuation of company X, and what you will do, you will try and find out a company which is comparable with company X. So in case if you find company Y, which is more or less comparable in all respect with company X, and if the information about the valuation of company Y is available with you, then you will make certain adjustments for the peculiarities of the asset X in the valuation of Y, and this is how you will arrive at the figure of value of company X. So this is how it is comparable company, because you're comparing the value of another company, and that is how you're trying to find the value of the company of your target company. In this case, a quoted price is also the base is also a method for the purpose of valuation under the market approach. So in case if the asset or in case the company that you're trying to value, if it is listed on a stock exchange or it is listed on an exchange, then whatever is the quoted price of this asset on that exchange also becomes the value of this asset, which is also as per the input level one input as per the index 113, which is on fair value measurement. The second method under the market approach is comparable transaction method. So difference between the comparable company method and comparable transaction method is very simple. In case of a comparable method, you are comparing one company with another company, and in case of comparable transaction method, you are trying to compare one transaction with another transaction. So these are the two methods which are available under the market approach. And then we come to the asset approach or the cost approach, which is the third approach. And please remember, there are only three approaches for the purpose of valuation anywhere in the world, and those three approaches are, as I have just mentioned to you, number one, income approach, number two, market approach, that we have already discussed, and now the third approach, which is known as asset approach. Or please also remember, asset approach is also known as cost approach. So sometime जब आप पढ़ेंगे, तैयारी करेंगे वैल्यूएशन के एग्जाम की, तो कई बार आप देखेंगे कि कहीं लिखा हुआ है कॉस्ट अप्रोच और कहीं पर लिखा हुआ है एसेट अप्रोच. सो यू माइट थिंक there are two different approaches. No, it is same. So cost approach and the asset approach, now these two terms are used interchangeably. Under the asset approach, there can be many methods, broadly four that I would like to mention. Number one, so under the asset approach, that is third approach, the method number one is book value method. Very simple. Book value method का क्या मतलब है? The value as given in the balance sheet of a company on the date of the valuation becomes the value of that company, and that's your book value method. Number two is adjusted book value method. Now what does it mean? It means you don't take the value of the assets or the liabilities as they are given in the balance sheet of the company on the date of the valuation. Instead of that, you will make adjustment to those values. Meaning what? Meaning you bought a piece of land 10 years back at 1 crore. Today that land in the market is worth 10 crore. So when you want to find out the adjusted book value, you will not take 1 crore as the value of land in your calculation. You will take 10 crore as the value of the land in your calculation, and the value that you would arrive following this process is known as adjusted book value method. Number three is replacement method. That means if this asset has to be replaced as it is today, how much will it cost you? And that is a replacement method. And the fourth is liquidation value. And liquidation value means if the company has to be sold and closed, and if all the assets are to be sold, how much money will you realize minus how much expenses you will need to incur on realization of these assets, and that's your liquidation value. Now friends, this I thought, I'm sure, and you would experience when you start preparing for this valuation exam, I'm sure this understanding that we have had in last few minutes about as to what is value, what is valuation, and why do we do valuation, and how the valuations are done. This understanding, I'm sure, is going to help you immensely in your preparation. Few more things that I would like to mention here. Please remember, income approach is the most fundamental, dependable, and reliable. Ignore it at your risk. Number two, quoted price is a good basis, but it is always better to support the quoted price with your income based valuation so as to be sure that everything is in place. And finally, the market approach, finally, the cost approach or the asset approach, please remember, is only good for the purpose to find as to what is the lower side of the value of an asset. So the cost approach or the asset approach will give you the lower downside of an asset as far as the valuations are concerned. So with this understanding, friends, about the business valuation, we can now just share with you what are the opportunities available. I am sure all of you as future aspirants to become a valuation professional मस्ट बी वंडरिंग एज टू अगर मैं ये वैल्यूएशन का कोर्स करता हूँ, एग्जाम को पास करता हूँ और अगर मैं वैल्यूएशन प्रोफेशनल की तरह प्रैक्टिस करता हूँ, व्हाट आर द अपॉर्चुनिटीज विच आर अवेलेबल टू मी. नाउ ब्रॉडली फ्रेंड्स, opportunities today broadly and majorly which are available for the valuation professional will fall into under the four major statutes. Number one, under the Companies Act. Number two, under the Income Tax Act. Number three, under the FEMA. And number four, under SEBI. So under these four statutes, majorly the valuation scope is available for people like you and me who are registered valuers as per the valuation rules. But please remember, today the scope is confined. That means as a registered valuer, so if you as a company secretary pass the valuation exam and become a member of IBBI, start practicing as a valuation professional, you would be able to do valuation for everything under the company as per the Companies Act and also as per the SEBI Act. Under the Income Tax Act, you will not be able to do valuation as RB or as company secretary also. Neither under FEMA, you would be able to do the valuation for any of the FEMA related provisions as company secretary or as RB. As a merchant banker, under the Companies Act, merchant bankers are not identified for the purpose of valuation, but under the Income Tax Act, SEBI and FEMA, merchant bankers are authorized to do the valuation. If you are a chartered accountant, and as a chartered accountant, under company secretary's provisions, you cannot do the valuation. Under the income tax, for the some of the things you can do valuation, but not for all. Under FEMA, you can do valuation as a chartered accountant. So even if you are not a registered valuer, you're only a chartered accountant, you can do the valuations which are under the provisions of FEMA. Under the SEBI, as a chartered accountant, you cannot do the valuation. If you are a company secretary or you are a cost accountant only, then remember you cannot do the valuation at all. So if you are only a chartered account, if you are only a company secretary or you are only a cost accountant, you cannot do the valuation under any of the four laws that I have discussed, that is Companies Act, Income Tax Act, FEMA or SEBI. But if you are a company secretary and also a registered valuer, then you can do valuation under the Companies Act and also valuation as per the SEBI requirements. But remember friends, good news, and the good news is the government of India has already brought out a valuers bill. Now this valuers bill should have become a law much before, but it is still to become a law. Once the valuers bill becomes a law, then under all the statutes that we have in the country, besides the four that I have just discussed with you, only a person who is registered as a valuer as per the valuation rules, he only would be able to do the valuation. That means what? That means the scope today is there very much, but after the valuers bill becomes a statute, then the registered valuers will have tremendous scope as far as the professional growth is concerned. Now friends, let us come to the next step, and the next step is how to prepare for the exam. I'm sure with all the discussion that we have had so far, all of you must be hugely enthused, motivated, more encouraged, and wanting to become a valuation professional. And therefore, all of you would be very, very enthusiastically maybe wanting to how to prepare the exam. सो व्हाट आई हैव डन फ्रेंड्स, मैंने आपके लिए क्या किया है, मैंने ये जो डिस्कशन है इसको दो पार्ट्स में डिवाइड किया है। और वो दो पार्ट्स क्या हैं, वो दो पार्ट ये हैं कि मैंने ये जो सारा कोर्स करिकुलम है जो कि आईबीबीआई ने स्टिपुलेट किया हुआ है, वो सारे कोर्स करिकुलम को मैंने चार सेक्शंस में डिवाइड किया है। और मैं आपको स्टेप बाय स्टेप ये डिस्कस करूँगा आपसे कि आपको ये जो कोर्स करिकुलम है उसकी प्रिपरेशन किस तरह से करनी है। आप में से हो सकता है कुछ लोगों ने पहले ही ये एग्ज़ाम एक आध बार दिया होगा, तो आपने रियलाइज़ किया होगा कि जैसा कि मैंने पहले भी कहा कि कोर्स करिकुलम बहुत बहुत वास्ट है, बहुत वास्ट है। तो वो पूरा अगर तैयारी करने के लिए जाएंगे तो मेरे ख्याल से 2 साल भी तैयारी के लिए कम पड़ेंगे। और 2 साल तो अपने पास में है नहीं, क्योंकि वी आर प्रैक्टिसिंग कंपनी सेक्रेटरीज और कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट और चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट। सो एज प्रैक्टिसिंग प्रोफेशनल, एज इट इज़ वी आर शॉर्ट ऑफ टाइम, and to top it, to bring out, to devote 2 years to any exam is next to impossible. And therefore what I have done, I have divided the entire course curriculum into 4 segments, and I'm going to discuss all these segments with you one by one and topic wise, to let you know कि ये जो टॉपिक है इस टॉपिक पर आपको किस तरह से तैयारी करनी है। और बाय द वे मैं आपको ये बता दूं कि ये जो सेशन है हम उसको रिकॉर्ड कर रहे हैं, और ये रिकॉर्डिंग की लिंक हम आप सभी के साथ में अपने WIRC के थ्रू शेयर करेंगे, सो दैट अगर आपको कभी ये वीडियो द्वारा देखना हो और किसी पर्टिकुलर एस्पेक्ट के बारे में आपको और जानकारी चाहिए हो, तो फिर आप इसको दोबारा से खोल कर देख सकते हैं। तो हम स्टेप बाय स्टेप करेंगे। तो वो पहला, दैट इज़ द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द स्ट्रेटजी दैट आई एम गोइंग टू शेयर विद यू। स्ट्रेटजी नंबर 2 फ्रेंड्स, ये जो एग्ज़ाम है ये एग्ज़ाम बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग है, एट द सेम टाइम बहुत चैलेंजिंग भी है। क्यों चैलेंजिंग है, क्यों इंटरेस्टिंग है? इंटरेस्टिंग इसलिए है क्योंकि आपको लंबे 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 आंसर नहीं देने हैं। इट इज़ MCQ बेस्ड, सो यू विल हैव 4 ऑप्शंस, एंड आउट ऑफ दोज 4 ऑप्शंस you will have to select one which you think is the right answer, tick mark it, and then move on. So it is not a typical pen and pencil pen and paper exam, online based, ऑनलाइन MQ बेस्ड है, ऑनलाइन है, तो आपको कहीं एग्ज़ाम लिखना नहीं है। आपको IBBI के जो भी सेंटर्स हैं वो सेंटर्स पे जाके ये ऑनलाइन एग्ज़ाम देना है। 2 घंटे का पेपर होता है, और वो 2 घंटे में आपको 100 मार्क्स के क्वेश्चन आते हैं। 100 क्वेश्चन नहीं आते हैं, कुछ 85-80 क्वेश्चन आते हैं, क्योंकि काफ़ी सारे क्वेश्चन 2-2 मार्क्स के भी होते हैं। और इसमें सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि ये एग्ज़ाम में नेगेटिव मार्किंग है, यानी कि अगर आपने कोई भी सवाल का आंसर गलत दिया तो आपको कुछ तो मिलेगा नहीं, ये तो बात भूल जाइए। ऊपर से आपको 0.25 की नेगेटिव मार्किंग हो जाएगी, यानी कि अगर आपने 1 मार्क का क्वेश्चन आंसर गलत किया तो आपके 0.25 मार्क्स माइनस हो जाएंगे जो आपने पहले से कमाए होंगे। और अगर आपने 2 क्वेश्चन का कोई क्वेश्चन गलत आंसर किया तो आपके 0.5 मार्क्स रिड्यूस हो जाएंगे जो आपने पहले से कमाए होंगे, एंड विच इज़ रियली डेंजरस। एंड वाई इट इज़ रियली डेंजरस, बिकॉज इस एग्ज़ाम में गैस वर्क का कोई स्कोप नहीं है। यू कैन नॉट डू द गैस वर्क।
हेलो
यस,
हेलो
यस प्लीज। ओके, तो
सर आपका नेटवर्क गया। हेलो
ओके, यप, आई कैन हियर यू। कैन यू हियर मी? So there is a little technical problem, so it'll take 2 minutes. Please just be online. Yeah, can you hear me, अखिलेश?
यस सर, वी कैन हियर यू। प्लीज गो अहेड।
हाँ, तो ओके, तो अभी आप Am I audible very clearly to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay, very good. So can I share my PPT once again?
Please, sir.
All right. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. So just give me a second. And you please in case if you realize something of this kind again, please do not hesitate to interrupt me. Okay, so do you see the slide structure of the exam on your screen, Akhilesh? Anyone can answer, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, as we were discussing, so this is negative marking और वो थोड़ी dangerous होती है. And why? Because you would realize that sometimes it can happen that जो आपने correct question answer किए वो उनका टोटल 60 के ऊपर था, लेकिन आपने बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस गलत आंसर कर दिए और जिनकी वजह से आपको नेगेटिव स्कोरिंग हुई और उसकी वजह से आपका जो 60 का जो प्लस का स्कोर था वो नेगेटिव होकर 60 के नीचे आ गया, तो आप तो एग्ज़ाम चूक जाएंगे. तो इसमें ये जो एग्ज़ाम है इसमें आपको गैस वर्क नहीं है. तो मैंने क्या किया है, मैंने इसको एक सेकंड स्ट्रेटजी जो मैं आपके साथ में डिस्कस करने वाला हूँ, और वो ये कि वो जो 2 घंटे का जब आप एग्ज़ाम देंगे, when you are sitting in front of the computer at the center of IBBI and appearing for this exam, how do you spend those 2 hours? How do you handle those questions? What kind of presence of mind you would need to have at that point in time, which is I'm going to discuss with you after discussing the first thing. The only thing is what we will do, this second part, this second strategy as to how to write this exam or how to spend those 2 hours in front of the computer of IBBI. ये जो पार्ट है ये IBC के लिए और वैल्यूएशन एग्जाम के लिए कॉमन है, तो मैं ये पार्ट आज डिस्कस नहीं करूँगा. ये जो पार्ट है कि 2 घंटे कंप्यूटर के सामने एग्ज़ाम कैसे दें, ये जो पार्ट है ये मैं आपको कल IBC के बारे में जब चर्चा करूँगा उस समय आपके साथ में डिस्कस करूँगा, क्योंकि ये जो पोर्शन है एकदम आइडेंटिकल है. IBBI के एग्ज़ाम के लिए और वैल्यूएशन के एग्ज़ाम के लिए सेम है. प्लीज़ रिमेंबर, IBBI का एग्ज़ाम और वैल्यूएशन का एग्ज़ाम और IBC का एग्ज़ाम, दोनों एग्ज़ाम का जो फॉर्मेट है एकदम सेम है, एकदम सेम है. तो ये जो पोर्शन मैं आपके साथ में कल डिस्कस करूँगा, राइट. सो दैट आई डू नॉट रिपीट सेम थिंग वंस अगेन, राइट. राइट. ओके, सो लेट्स लुक एट द स्ट्रेटजी नंबर 1 कि मैं मेरे वैल्यूएशन के एग्ज़ाम की तैयारी कैसे करूं. कोर्स करिकुलम इतना बड़ा है, क्या मैं पूरा पढ़ते बैठूं? पूरा पढ़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं है और सभी को बराबर भी पढ़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. तो व्हाट वी हैव डन, आई हैव डिवाइडेड द एंटायर कोर्स करिकुलम in 4 parts. Number 1, there are certain topics I have marked, and I'm going to show them to you on the show them to you and also discuss them with you one by one. So there are certain topics I have marked them as professional. Meaning what? Meaning these topics you really have to prepare extremely well. Extremely well. That means you really have to have professional grip on these topics. And that means you have to really prepare them exhaustively. That means you should be a master of these topics. Number 2, there are certain topics that I have marked as high. Meaning what? Meaning these need extra attention and time. So the topics that I have marked as high, you would realize, and जब आप देखेंगे तो आपको ध्यान में आएगा कि ये टॉपिक्स के बारे में आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग पहले से काफ़ी मजबूत है. इसीलिए ये टॉपिक के ऊपर आपको बहुत ज़्यादा समय स्पेंड करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. देयर आर सर्टेन टॉपिक्स दैट आई हैव मार्क्ड एज नॉर्मल. इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब ये टॉपिक्स दे आर रिलेटिवली ईजियर as you may already be aware of these topics. For example, we all are company secretaries, right? So as company secretaries, our understanding of the Companies Act is pretty good in any case. So therefore, I do not have to spend too much of time in preparation on the topics pertaining to the Companies Act, right? So that is what I have marked certain topics as normal, यानी कि उसमें आपको नॉर्मल मेहनत करनी है. And then there are certain topics that I have marked them as check input output ratio. अब इसका क्या मतलब है? इसका मतलब ये है फ्रेंड्स, याद रखिए, ये एग्ज़ाम 2 घंटे का है, यानी कि आपके पास में 120 मिनट्स हैं और 120 मिनट्स में आपको 100 मार्क्स का पेपर अटेम्प्ट करना है. और याद रखिए, वो 100 मार्क्स का पेपर को पास करने के लिए आपको 100 मार्क्स नहीं लाने हैं, आपको 90 मार्क्स नहीं लाने हैं, आपको 80 मार्क्स नहीं लाने हैं, आपको 70 मार्क्स नहीं लाने हैं. टू पास दिस एग्जाम you need to ensure that you get a score of 60 and above. So long as you are getting a score of 60, you are through. And therefore, you do not have to prepare the entire course curriculum 100%. There are certain topics from where the number of questions that would come are hardly any, but the subject matter is too big. So you, depending on the availability of time with you, you can take a call कि ये सब्जेक्ट को क्या मुझे पूरी तरह से तैयार करना चाहिए या मैं इसको साइड में रख सकता हूँ, क्योंकि इतना सा अगर रह भी गया तो बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ फर्क पड़ने वाला नहीं है, या इस सब्जेक्ट की वैसे भी, टॉपिक की वैसे भी मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग ठीक ही है, तो मैं अंडरस्टैंडिंग के हिसाब से भी इसको आंसर दे पाऊँगा. तो मैंने कुछ टॉपिक्स को चेक इनपुट आउटपुट रेशियो करके मार्क किया है, तो आप समझ जाना कि उन टॉपिक्स को आपके किस तरह से हैंडल करना है. Now, many times I receive phone calls from the future aspirants for the evaluation exam or for the evaluation exam, और लोग कहते हैं कि सर आपके पास में कोई MCQ का कोई डाटा बैंक है क्या, तो प्लीज़ हमारे साथ में शेयर करिए. तो फ्रेंड्स, मैं आपको बता दूं, there is no point in becoming MCQ obsessed. And why? एंड दैट इज़ बिकॉज ऐसा नहीं है कि 500 क्वेश्चन हैं या 400 क्वेश्चन हैं या 300 क्वेश्चंस का डाटा बैंक है IBBI के पास में, और अगर आपने वो 300 क्वेश्चंस को समझ लिया तो आप ये एग्ज़ाम को पास कर पाएंगे. नॉट एट ऑल. द डाटा बैंक दैट द IBBI हैज़ गॉट अनलिमिटेड. And remember, not only it's unlimited, you will not be able to memorize even if the number of questions were to be 300, 400, 500. Why? Because for you to memorize an answer to a question which pertain to derivatives, which pertain to intangible assets, which pertain to the provisions of the income tax, which pertains to the provisions of the Transfer of Property Act, which pertains to the provisions of specific assets valuation, you will not be able to memorize unless and until your conceptual clarity about those topics are through. And therefore, focus on gaining conceptual understanding, and rest of the journey I think would become very easy for you. So let's move forward and go one by one. तो कैसे करना है आपकी, what should be your approach to preparation of all the topics. So ये जो सारे topics हैं, I am sure most of you without any exception would have gone through the syllabus of the evaluation exam. तो आपको इतना तो डेफिनेटली मालूम होगा कि वैल्यूएशन एग्ज़ाम को पास करने के लिए आपको कौन कौन से टॉपिक्स की तैयारी करनी है. तो जब आप तैयारी करना शुरू करेंगे, मैं आपको मेरे अनुभव के आधार पर बताता हूँ, तो जब भी मैं कोई सब्जेक्ट पढ़ना शुरू करता हूँ तो मुझे वो सब्जेक्ट पढ़ने में पहली बार इतना बोरिंग लगता है, इतना डिफ़िकल्ट लगता है कि मुझे लगता है कि मैं ये सब्जेक्ट को क्यों पढ़ रहा हूँ, और मेरा मन करता है कि मैं उसको फेंक दूँ, उसको छोड़ दूँ. सो प्लीज़ रिमेंबर, जब आप वैल्यूएशन के एग्ज़ाम की तैयारी करना शुरू करेंगे या इंसॉल्वेंसी के एग्ज़ाम की तैयारी करना शुरू करेंगे, तो सबसे पहली बात आपको क्या याद रखनी है, आपको याद रखना है, फर्स्ट रीडिंग विल बी प्लेन रीडिंग व्हेन नॉट मच मे बी अंडरस्टूड. यानी कि आप पढ़े जा रहे हैं, आपको कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, लेकिन आप फिर भी पढ़ते जाइए. दैट्स नंबर 1. Number 2, second reading will be with highlighting important contents. So जो भी है, आप एप्लीकेशन के वैल्यूएशन एप्लीकेशन के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, टेंजिबल एसेट्स के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, इंटेंजिबल एसेट्स के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, डेरिवेटिव्स के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, नॉन करंट एसेट्स के, नॉन फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, वॉट एवर यू आर रीडिंग, सेकेंड टाइम जब आप उसको रीड करेंगे जो टॉपिक को या बुक को, तो आपको क्या करना है, एक हाईलाइटर पेन अपने साथ में रखिए और जो जो पॉइंट आपको इंपॉर्टेंट लगते जाएं उनको हाईलाइट करते जाइए। थर्ड, रीडिंग विद मेकिंग नोट्स, क्योंकि पहली रीडिंग जब आप करोगे और अगर आप नोट्स बनाना शुरू करोगे तो आपको मालूम पड़ेगा कि जो बुक में लिखा है लिटरली आप पूरा के पूरा वो लिखोगे, और अगर पूरा बुक लिखोगे तो फिर आप समझिए कि 5-6 साल भी आपको कम पड़ेंगे एग्जाम को पास करने के लिए। तो उसकी क्या करिए, पहली रीडिंग हो जाने दीजिए, दूसरी रीडिंग में हाईलाइट्स बनाइए, थर्ड रीडिंग जब आप करेंगे इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स की, जो कि मैंने खास तौर से प्रोफेशनल कैटेगरी में मार्क किए हैं, जब प्रोफेशनल कैटेगरी के जो टॉपिक्स हैं जब आप उनको पढ़ना शुरू करेंगे, थर्ड रीडिंग पर जब आप आएंगे तब आप नोट्स बनाना शुरू करिए। क्यों? उस समय पर आपकी उस टॉपिक की अंडरस्टैंडिंग काफ़ी अच्छी हो गई होगी और आप वाकई में वही लिखेंगे जो कि अमृत के जैसा होगा, उसके एक्सट्रैक्ट का जैसा होगा। फोर्थ टाइम रीडिंग द नोट्स विल बी इनफ। तो फोर्थ रीडिंग जब आप करेंगे तो आपको ध्यान में आएगा कि आपको बुक भी पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है, जो आपने नोट्स बनाए हैं वो नोट्स पढ़ के ही आपको पूरा एकदम याद हो जाता है, समझ में आ जाता है। इन फिफ्थ रीडिंग इवन बाय लुकिंग एट दी नोट्स यू विल नो दी आंसर। एंड ये स्टेज पर आपको पहुंचना है जब आप डेरिवेटिव्स के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं या फिर आप टेंजिबल एसेट्स की वैल्यूएशन के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, इंटेंजिबल वैल्यूएशन के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, वैल्यूएशन के कौन कौन से मेथड्स हैं उनके बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, वैल्यूएशन के कौन कौन सी अप्रोचेज हैं उसके बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, फिक्स इनकम सिक्योरिटीज़ क्या है उसके बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल क्या है उसके बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, और अलग अलग इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स कौन कौन से हैं जिसका क्या वैल्यूएशन करते हैं उसके बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं। तो पहली बार, दूसरी बार, तीसरी बार, चौथी बार जब आप कर लेंगे, जब पांचवी बार आप पढ़ेंगे तो आपको याद में आएगा कि नोट्स को देखते ही आपको समझ में आ जाता है कि ये क्वेश्चन क्या है और इसका आंसर क्या है। एंड दैट इज द स्टेज दैट यू हैव टू रीच एट। कीप लुकिंग फॉर पॉसिबल क्वेश्चंस एंड नोटिंग द सेम ड्यूरिंग द प्रोसेस ऑफ अवर प्रिपरेशन। सो जब आप ये तैयारी कर रहे हैं, जब आप पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं, तो कोई बार आपको लगेगा यार इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन बनता है, तो क्या करिए, वो क्वेश्चन को बाजू में लिख लीजिए और उसका आंसर क्या है उसको भी बाजू में लिख लीजिए। याद रखिए, जो भी लोग क्वेश्चन पेपर बनाते हैं, सेट करते हैं, वो इसी तरह से करते हैं। वो क्वेश्चन को, पूरे बुक को पढ़ते हैं, जो उनको लगता है हाँ इस पर क्वेश्चन बनता है तो उसको लिख लेते हैं। और याद रखिए, क्वेश्चन वाला जो एरिया होता है वो सेम ही होता है, तो आपके दिमाग में भी वो एरिया बैठेगा कि हाँ यार इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन बन सकता है। राइट इट डाउन सेपरेटली इन ए सेपरेट नोटबुक with an answer so that you are automatically ready to answer that question. Now let us start looking at the discussion topic wise and syllabus and also weightage and the priority order for preparation. तो अब हम क्या करेंगे, सारे टॉपिक्स वाइज देखेंगे, उनका वेटेज कितना है वो देखेंगे और उनको हमको कितना मार्क्स मिलेगा, कितना उसका वेटेज देना चाहिए प्रिपरेशन में, वो देखेंगे वन बाय वन। Alright, so we are at topic number 1 and you can see on your screen we are topic number 1। तो पहले है टॉपिक नंबर, फिर मेन टॉपिक, फिर वेटेज। मेन टॉपिक है, फिर वेटेज, यानी कि वो कितने मार्क्स का, उस टॉपिक पे आपको कितने मार्क्स के क्वेश्चन मिलते हैं। उसके बाद में सब टॉपिक्स है, सब टॉपिक्स यानी कि क्या क्या आपको पढ़ना है। सो मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स है और मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स के अंदर आपको क्या क्या पढ़ना है। याद रखिए, मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स की अगर आप कोई बुक मार्केट में लेने जाएंगे तो वो इतनी मोटी होगी और इतनी मोटी बुक आपको इस एग्जाम के लिए पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है। तो आपको इस एग्जाम के लिए क्या क्या तैयार करना है अंडर दी मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स। यू ओनली हैव टू प्रिपेयर 4 टॉपिक्स। नंबर 1 नेशनल इनकम अकाउंटिंग, नंबर 2 बेसिक्स ऑफ फिस्कल पॉलिसी, नंबर 3 बेसिक्स ऑफ मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी, नंबर 4 अंडरस्टैंडिंग बिजनेस साइकिल्स। तो ये आपको 4 टॉपिक्स अंडर दी मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स तैयार करने हैं और 4 मार्क्स का वेटेज है। याद रखिए, ये बहुत ही लो लाइंग फ्रूट्स हैं, यानी कि थोड़ा सा मेहनत करेंगे लेकिन आपको 4 मार्क्स बड़ी आसानी से मिल जाएंगे। और ये जो 4 मार्क्स हैं ये आपको 60 के स्कोर से ऊपर ले जाने में आपको बहुत मदद करेंगे। तो ये आप थोड़ा पढ़िए इसको अच्छी तरह से। और आप देख सकते हैं कि लास्ट वाला जो कॉलम है मैंने उसमें लिखा है हाई। हाई क्यों लिखा है? क्योंकि हमारी एज ए कंपनी सेक्रेटरी और चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट और कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट और एमबीए और ए लॉयर, हमारी जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग इकोनॉमिक्स की है ओवर द ईयर्स पहले से काफ़ी अच्छी हो जाती है। खाली हमको टॉपिक पर थोड़ा फोकस करना पड़ेगा। तो टॉपिक को थोड़ी तैयारी करेंगे, 4 मार्क्स की आपकी आसानी से तैयारी हो जाएगी। देन यू हैव टॉपिक नंबर 2 विच इज़ ऑन फाइनेंस. अब सीधी सी बात है, हम चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हैं, कंपनी सेक्रेटरी हैं, कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट हैं, एमबीए हैं, तो फाइनेंस तो हमारा बेस है ही. तो इसके ऊपर आप देखेंगे कि मैं लास्ट कॉलम में लिखता हूँ नॉर्मल, यानी कि इसके ऊपर आपको बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि आपकी फाइनेंस के बारे में अंडरस्टैंडिंग पहले से ही अच्छी है. फिर भी कौन कौन से टॉपिक्स आपको पढ़ने हैं? बेसिक कंसेप्ट ऑफ फाइनेंस, डिसीजंस इन फाइनेंस, इन्वेस्टिंग का डिसीजन क्या है, डिविडेंड का डिसीजन क्या है, वर्किंग कैपिटल का डिसीजन क्या है, फाइनेंसिंग का डिसीजन क्या है. नाउ दीज आर द डिसीजंस दैट यू नीड टू familiarize yourself with. Then you will need to prepare yourself over the financial markets, capital markets, securities markets and things like that. कोई सी भी book on the financial management you can pick up, but remember, not the whole book, only prepare the topics which are given as part of the syllabus. Incidentally, I also have authored a book which is Finance for Value Creation. Now my book on finance for value creation will also help you to prepare on this aspect of the evaluation exam, that is finance. Of course, this book will help you in many other ways as well, but certainly for preparation on the finance syllabus, and that is of 3 marks. Then you have topic number 3, and topic number 3, as you would know, is professional ethics and standards. Now please remember, this topic is of immense significance, absolutely immense significance. Why? Because as you would recollect, in the beginning we had a discussion and we said that the objective behind the bringing all these reforms of government of India is to enhance the level of corporate governance in this country. So we, as the ambassadors of improving corporate governance in this country, अगर हम लोग ही अगर गवर्नेंस के मामले में, एथिक्स के मामले में, वैल्यूज़ के मामले में, स्टैंडर्ड्स के मामले में अगर हम लोग ही पीछे रहेंगे, तो हम लोग कैसे कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस का लेवल इस देश में बढ़ाने में सक्सेसफुल हो पाएंगे? नहीं हो पाएंगे. एंड दैट इज़ वाई दिस टॉपिक इज ऑफ इमेंस सिग्निफिकेंस, प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स एंड स्टैंडर्ड्स. 5 मार्क्स का है. यू कैन सी इन दी लास्ट कॉलम मैंने लिखा है प्रोफेशनल, यानी कि करीब 45-46 पेज का डॉक्यूमेंट है ये, जो आपकी IBBI की वेबसाइट से या MCA की वेबसाइट से या ऑनलाइन आप इसको डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं. सो यू जस्ट नीड टू डाउनलोड रजिस्टर्ड वैल्यूअर्स एंड वैल्यूएशन रूल्स 2017. वो आपने डाउनलोड किया तो वो पूरा आपको अच्छी तरह से तैयार कर रहा है, और पूरी अच्छे से अगर आप उसको तैयार करेंगे तो याद रखिए ये 5 मार्क्स आपके कहीं जाने वाले नहीं हैं. ये 5 मार्क्स तो आपके कहीं जाने वाले नहीं है. ये इसकी तैयारी, इस टॉपिक की तैयारी आपको प्रैक्टिस में भी बहुत मदद करेगी, और आपको एक सक्सेसफुल वैल्यूएशन प्रोफेशनल बनने में भी बहुत मदद करेगी. और ये जो प्रिपरेशन है वो आपको एक और टॉपिक के बाद में उसकी वहाँ भी मदद मिलेगी. सो spend enough and adequate time on these topics. याद रखिए, जो 5 रीडिंग का मैंने पहले बताया है, जो भी टॉपिक्स हैं प्रोफेशनल की कैटेगरी में जहां मैंने लिस्ट किए हैं, वो सारे टॉपिक आपको 5 बार पढ़ने हैं, क्योंकि और जिस तरह से मैंने बताया उस तरह से पढ़ने हैं. और आप देखेंगे कि अगर आपने उस तरह से पढ़े तो यू विल बी एबल टू क्रैक दिस एग्जाम विदाउट मच डिफिकल्टी. Then the topic number 4 is on financial statement analysis. Now friends, 3 मार्क्स का वेटेज है, और 3 मार्क्स के वेटेज में आपको क्या क्या तैयार करना है, आपको समझ के लेना है कि एसेट्स क्या हैं, लायबिलिटीज़ क्या हैं, इनकम क्या है, एक्सपेंसेस क्या हैं. ये इसके लिए आपको तैयारी करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि ये चीज़ आपको पहले से ही मालूम है. परफॉर्मेंस एनालिसिस के ऊपर आपको टाइम स्पेंड करना होगा. रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट क्या है, रिटर्न ऑन कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड क्या है, रिटर्न ऑन इक्विटी क्या है, इकोनॉमिक वैल्यू एडेड क्या है, यानी कि बिजनेसेस की परफॉर्मेंस को किस तरह से एवेल्यूएट किया जाता है, बिजनेसेस की परफॉर्मेंस किसी की कैसी है ये कैसे मालूम करा जाता है, उसके लिए जो रेशोज़ है उसकी आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग अच्छी होनी चाहिए. हम लोग फाइनेंस में डील करते हैं एज कंपनी सेक्रेटरी, कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट, चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, एज MBAs, बट आवर फोकस इन दी प्रैक्टिस इज लिमिटेड टू सर्टेन एरियाज. सो कई बार हम लोग परफॉर्मेंस एनालिसिस के ऊपर उतना ध्यान नहीं देते हैं, and that is why this is where you will need to spend little extra efforts, and that is why I have marked it as high category. कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर एनालिसिस, डेट क्या है, इक्विटी क्या है, उसके बारे में, लेवरेज क्या है, फाइनेंशियल लेवरेज क्या है, फाइनेंशियल लेवरेज क्यों जरूरी है, और फाइनेंशियल लेवरेजेस के बेनिफिट्स क्या हैं और फाइनेंशियल लेवरेज के रिस्क्स क्या हैं, व्हाट आर द डेंजर्स ऑफ अ कंपनी विच इज़ हाईली फाइनेंशियली लेवरेज्ड एंड व्हाट आर द एडवांटेजेस ऑफ अ कंपनी विच इज़ मॉडरेटली फाइनेंशियली लेवरेज, उसके बारे में आपकी तैयारी अच्छी होनी चाहिए. Credit analysis, which means how to ascertain as to what is the credit worthiness of a business, of a company, right? Because many times as a valuation professional you would be required to do the valuation of companies and many times of the debt instruments. So when you are doing the evaluation of debt instruments of a company, you obviously will need to have a good handle to find out the credit analysis of that business. So how would you do the credit analysis of a business? And that is where you need to strengthen your understanding about, and of course cash flow analysis. So these are the subtopics that you will need to prepare on under the main topic of state financial statement analysis. 3 मार्क्स बड़े इजीली, बड़े आसानी से मिल जाते हैं और लो लाइंग फ्रूट्स हैं. थोड़ी तैयारी करनी पड़ेगी, थोड़ा टाइम ज़्यादा लगाना पड़ेगा, लेकिन लो लाइंग फ्रूट्स हैं और ये 3 मार्क्स बड़ी आसानी से आप अपनी गोदी में ला सकते हैं, जो कि आपको 60 मार्क्स के ऊपर लेके जाने में मदद करेगा. सो दिस इज हाउ यू वुड डू अबाउट दिस टॉपिक नंबर 4. Now topic number 5, remember, is very vast, very vast. Of course the weightage उसमें 18 मार्क्स का है, तो जो जनरल लॉज एंड जुडिशियल प्रोनाउंसमेंट जो उसकी मेन हेडिंग है, ये टॉपिक के अंदर बहुत सारे सब टॉपिक्स हैं, बहुत सारे सब टॉपिक्स हैं. और दिस इज़ वेयर आई वाज सेइंग कि आपको देखना पड़ेगा कि आपको कितना टाइम डिवोट करना चाहिए. तो उसमें कुछ टॉपिक हैं जिसमें आपको पूरी तरह से तैयार होना है, कुछ टॉपिक्स हैं जहाँ पर आपको इनपुट आउटपुट रेशो देख कर डिसाइड करना है कि इस टॉपिक के ऊपर कितना समय देना चाहिए. तो जनरल लॉज में जैसे कि मैंने कहा बहुत सारे सब टॉपिक्स हैं. तो पहला जो सब टॉपिक है वो है रजिस्टर्ड वैल्यूअर्स एंड वैल्यूएशन रूल्स. आपने देखा होगा, हमने कुछ देर पहले चर्चा करी कि ये ऊपर आया था ऑलरेडी. तो अगर वहाँ आपने तैयारी करी है तो ऑब्वियसली उसका आपको बेनिफिट यहाँ भी मिलेगा. एंड रजिस्टर्ड वैल्यूअर्स एंड वैल्यूएशन रूल्स कैसी होनी चाहिए आपकी तैयारी? प्रोफेशनल, यानी कि उसके ऊपर कोई भी सवाल आपको सोते समय भी कोई पूछ ले, यू शुड बी एबल टू आंसर इट. दूसरा सब टॉपिक, 2 सब टॉपिक इसमें से रिमूव कर दिए, इसलिए मैंने उसके बारे में जिक्र नहीं कर रहा हूँ. जो सेकंड टॉपिक है ट्रांसफर ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट. अब देखिए ट्रांसफर ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट इतना मोटा किताब है, इतना मोटा किताब अगर आप पढ़ने जाएंगे ट्रांसफर ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट 1882, तो आप समझ सकते हैं आपको कितना टाइम लगेगा. और आपको क्या करना है, टॉपिक दिए हुए हैं. कौन कौन से टॉपिक दिए हुए हैं? डेफिनेशन ऑफ इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी, ट्रांसफर एंड सेल ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी, राइट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज ऑफ बायर्स एंड सेलर्स, मॉर्गेज ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी, राइट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज ऑफ मॉर्गेजर्स एंड द मॉर्गेजी. सो ये जो टॉपिक्स हैं, just spend time only on these topics, not on the entire book, because these are the topics which are directly connected with the valuation as such. So बेयर एक्ट आपको लेना पड़ेगा और देखिए चेक इनपुट आउटपुट रेशो, एंड उसके हिसाब से आप डिसाइड कर सकते हैं कि कितना समय आपको देना चाहिए टू learn more about transfer of property act. Then you have Indian Stamps Act. Again, about the Indian Stamps Act, again I would say the same thing. किताब बहुत ज़्यादा मोटी नहीं है, शायद इतनी मोटी होगी, लेकिन पूरी किताब पढ़ने जाओगे तो ज़माना लग जाएगा पूरी तैयारी करने में. लेकिन आपको पूरी तैयारी करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. कौन कौन से टॉपिक्स आपको तैयार करने हैं? यू हैव टू प्रिपेयर बेसिक्स ऑफ इंडियन स्टैम्प एक्ट, वैल्यूएशन फॉर ड्यूटी, इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स ऑन विच ड्यूटी इज लेविड. 3 टॉपिक्स हैं, ये 3 टॉपिक की तैयारी करिए and that should be good enough for you. This is again part of your the part of your subtopic 5, which is on general laws and judicial pronouncements. Then you have Income Tax Act. Of course, Income Tax Act is very vast. Unless and until you are already dealing with the matters of Income Tax Act, you can take a call कि कितना तैयारी करना चाहिए, क्योंकि taxes on individual, taxes on companies, heads of income. So there are 6 heads of income, and those 6 heads of income by themselves are books. So would you have enough time to devote to all of them? That's the call that you have to take, and that's where you can decide कि इसको कितना समय देना चाहिए. देन इसके अंदर ही सब टॉपिक 5 के अंदर जो मेन टॉपिक 5 है अबाउट द जनरल लॉज एंड जुडिशियल प्रोनाउंसमेंट्स, The seventh number का सब टॉपिक है insolvency and bankruptcy code. Now you can see in the last column I am writing professional. So insolvency and bankruptcy code का ये जो सिलेबस है, याद रखिए पूरे जो 250 के ऊपर जो सेक्शंस हैं वो आपको तैयार नहीं करनी है, पूरे शेड्यूल्स आपको तैयार नहीं करनी है ऑफ द इंसॉल्वेंसी कोड. What you have to prepare yourself only on two aspects of the insolvency and bankruptcy code. Which are the two aspects of the insolvency and bankruptcy code? Aspect number one, CIRP, कॉर्पोरेट इंसॉल्वेंसी रेजोल्यूशन प्रोसेस. सो उससे रिलेटेड जो सेक्शंस हैं उनके ऊपर तैयारी करिए. और दूसरा लिक्विडेशन. सो लिक्विडेशन से रिलेटेड जो प्रोविजंस हैं उनके ऊपर तैयारी करिए. बाकी जो नॉन कॉर्पोरेट CIRP है, दैट इज द इंसॉल्वेंसी रेजोल्यूशन फॉर द पार्टनरशिप एंड द इंडिविजुअल्स, वो अभी तक नोटिफाई हुआ नहीं है. तो वो कोर्स वैसे भी लॉ अभी तक इफेक्टिव हुआ नहीं है, and it is not part of your course curriculum in any case. So just focus on CIRP related sections and the liquidation related sections. अगर आपने इंसॉल्वेंसी का एग्जाम पहले दिया हुआ है और पास किया हुआ है और उसके नोट्स अगर आपके पास में हैं तो आप क्या कर सकते हैं, वो नोट्स को रेफर कर सकते हैं. उसके लिए आपको दोबारा से बुक पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है और वो नोट्स के बेसिस पर आप अपनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग को रिफ्रेश कर सकते हैं. बट रिमेंबर, insolvency and bankruptcy code and the evaluation are very closely interrelated. Why they are very very closely interrelated? Because under the IBC code, as and when a company's application, as and when an application is admitted against a company by the NCLT under section 7 or 9 or 10 of the IBC code, the NCLT would appoint IRP, interim resolution professional, and this IRP, among other things, have to appoint two valuation professional. So every case that goes to NCLT will require the services of valuation professionals in any case, right? And that is what you need to remember. So that is the close relationship between the valuation and the insolvency resolution professional. So your understanding of the CIRP and the valuation and the liquidation related provisions has to be very very strong and professional. Then you have judicial pronouncements, and judicial pronouncements, fortunately there's a good news for you, and the good news is that in the syllabus that is brought out by IBBI, they have already identified certain laws, certain judicial pronouncements from where the questions will come in your exam of valuation. And which are those judicial pronouncements? There are 6 of them. So one is Hindustan Lever Employees Union versus Hindustan Lever Limited, and number 2 is Mihir H Mafatlal versus Mafatlal Industries Limited. Number 3 is Brook Bond Lipton India Limited. Number 4 is Dinesh Brislal Lakhani versus Parke Davis India Limited. Number 5, Dr. Mrs. Renuka Datla versus Solvay Pharmaceutical BB and others. And number 6, GL Sultania and another versus SEBI. So ये 6 केस लॉज हैं जिनके बारे में आपको अपने आप को तैयार करना है. और मैं आपको बता दूं कि by reading of these case laws, you would realize whether it is Supreme Court or High Court or the tribunal, everywhere the Supreme Court and the High Courts and the tribunal have taken the same approach as far as the valuation professionals are concerned. And what is that approach? That approach is that Supreme Court, High Courts and the tribunals time and again have said that in a case where a competent valuation has carried out valuation of an asset, we do not have the necessary expertise to interfere in their conclusions. And therefore, whatever a competent valuation professional has done, we will stand by it unless there are dramatic mistakes or errors committed by the valuation professional. So remember, it means what? It means there is a very sound backing of the judiciary for the valuation professionals, so long as they are doing their job properly. Now then we come to the subtopic 6, which is overview of valuation. And this from here the real valuation topic starts, the real valuation related topic starts. So overview of valuation, what would they ask you about? They would ask you about what is the meaning of value, which I have explained to you, premise of value, and that is the going concern, valuation of a company as a going concern, or valuation of a business on liquidation basis. So these are the only two premises, and that is what you will be tested on. Purpose of valuation. And remember, the purpose of valuation is absolutely very, very vast. So, any decision that is required to be taken, not only in the corporate but outside the corporate also, will require valuation. Two brothers are fighting with regard to the legacy of their father, right? And if the assets of the father have to be distributed equally between two brothers, how will you come to that conclusion? You can come to that conclusion only with the help of valuation, right? So the purpose of valuation, that is what you will need to be tested. You will be tested on valuation engagement, valuation process. So what is the valuation process? How does the valuation starts? Where does the valuation start from? And where does it end? That is what you will be tested on. Valuation report and the documentation. फ्रेंड्स जब आप ये मेन टॉपिक 6 पर आते हैं, तो माय सजेशन विल बी that you must focus, you must start your preparation with plain reading of Ind AS 113, which is on fair value measurement, and you must start your preparation with plain reading of valuation standards brought out by IVSC, which is International Valuation Standards Committee. तो जब आप वैल्यूएशन के जो टॉपिक्स हैं उनकी तैयारी करना शुरू करें, उसके पहले इंडेस 113 को अच्छी तरह से समझ लीजिए, और वैल्यूएशन स्टैंडर्ड्स ब्रॉट आउट बाय IVSC और बाय द इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स ऑफ इंडिया, ये दोनों में से किसी भी वैल्यूएशन स्टैंडर्ड्स को आप अच्छी तरह से पढ़ लीजिए, समझ लीजिए. योर प्रिपरेशन विल बिकम वेरी इजी. योर प्रिपरेशन विल बिकम वेरी इजी. सो दैट इज योर मेन टॉपिक नंबर 6. एंड कैसी होनी चाहिए आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग? एब्सोल्युटली प्रोफेशनल. देन यू हैव अ मेन टॉपिक वैल्यूएशन मेथड approaches and methodologies. Now by the way, I have already explained to you in the very beginning which are the approaches used for the purpose of valuation, which are the methods used for the purpose of valuation. Please remember, approaches will remain the same 3 that I have discussed with you. You may have some more methods added to whatever I have shared with you as you go on preparing. But ultimately, you will be tested on income approach, market approach, and the cost approach. And please remember, cost approach at times is also referred as asset approach, which means both mean the same thing. कैसी होनी चाहिए आपकी तैयारी? बोलने की जरूरत नहीं, बताने की जरूरत नहीं. आपकी तैयारी एकदम प्रोफेशनल के जैसी होनी चाहिए. यानी कि कोई अगर आप सोते से भी आपको पूछे कि भाई इसका क्या आंसर है, you should be able to respond to him. Main topic number 8 is about valuation application. And as I said कि टॉपिक नंबर 6 से चालू होता है. वैल्यूएशन का जो मेन एरिया है, वो जो मेन कोर्स करिकुलम है, वो चालू होता है. तो वैल्यूएशन एप्लीकेशन में के बहुत सारे सब टॉपिक्स हैं. उसमें इक्विटी एंड बिजनेस वैल्यूएशन. सो इक्विटी वैल्यूएशन आपको समझना है, बिजनेस वैल्यूएशन आपको समझना है, बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली जब आप वैल्यूएशन प्रोफेशनल बन के प्रैक्टिस करना शुरू करेंगे, जो असाइनमेंट्स आपके पास में आएंगे वो सारे असाइनमेंट्स विल बी रिलेटिंग टू दीज एस्पेक्ट्स ओनली. सो यू विल नीड टू प्रिपेयर as it is given in this course curriculum or syllabus that you already have from IBBI. कैसी होनी चाहिए आपकी तैयारी? प्रोफेशनल. Every topic relating to valuation, your preparation has to be professional. क्या मतलब है? 5 बार रीडिंग करनी है, ये मतलब है. 5 बार रीडिंग करेंगे तो 5वीं रीडिंग के नोट्स को देखते से ये आंसर दिमाग में आ जाएगा कि इसका आंसर क्या है. एंड रिमेंबर, एक बार आप उस मुकाम पर पहुंच गए, एक बार आप उस पॉइंट पर पहुंच गए, तो फिर आपको ये एग्जाम पास करने से कोई रोक सकता नहीं है. क्यों? क्योंकि आपकी तैयारी बहुत मजबूत हो चुकी है. नाउ व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द वैल्यूएशन एप्लीकेशन, रिमेंबर एक टॉपिक है जिसको बोलते हैं कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल. नाउ रिमेंबर, दिस कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल is a topic which is having very vast and significance and ramifications in every aspect of finance. यानी कि फाइनेंस में आपको कोई डिसीजन लेना है और अगर आपकी कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल की अंडरस्टैंडिंग अच्छी नहीं है तो याद रखिए आप वो फाइनेंस का डिसीजन नहीं ले पाएंगे. वो इनऑर्गेनिक ग्रोथ हो, ऑर्गेनिक ग्रोथ हो, वैल्यूएशन हो, फॉरेक्स मैनेजमेंट हो, इन्वेस्टमेंट हो, फिक्स्ड इनकम सिक्योरिटीज हो, होम लोन हो, पर्सनल लोन हो, इन whatever, anything that you have, any decision that you have to take in finance, remember you have to have a good understanding of cost of capital. So you need to understand cost of capital very very thoroughly. Once you do that, you would realize that your life has become much easy. So spend good amount of time in understanding about cost of capital. The second subtopic under the main topic 8 is about fixed income securities. Friends, मैं आपको बता दूं कि बहुत सारे लोगों को लगता है कि फिक्स्ड इनकम सिक्योरिटीज में इतना क्या ग्रेट है. Equity is the main thing. Let me tell you, friends, the size of the equity market globally is of $100 trillion, and size of the fixed income securities globally is $150 trillion. That means what? That means the fixed income security as a market is 1.5 times bigger than the equity market. That means what? That means 150 trillion worth of securities need to be valued every year, right? And that means what? That means number one, it offers huge scope for all of us as professional, and number two, it also means that we need to have very good understanding of how to do the valuation of fixed income securities. आपकी लाइफ थोड़ी सिंपल कर दूं. फिक्स्ड इनकम सिक्योरिटीज का मतलब क्या है? फिक्स्ड इनकम सिक्योरिटीज का मतलब है वो सिक्योरिटीज जिनके ऊपर हमको फिक्स्ड इनकम मिलती है. तो वो सिक्योरिटीज जिनके ऊपर हमको फिक्स्ड इनकम मिलती है या जिनके बारे में हमारी फिक्स्ड लायबिलिटी है, उन सिक्योरिटीज का वैल्यूएशन कैसे किया जाता है, दैट इज व्हाट इज वैल्यूएशन ऑफ फिक्स्ड इनकम securities. And that is where, my friends, you have to spend good amount of time. Option valuation, of course all of you are aware, the futures and the options, basically what we are talking about, the derivatives. So how to do the what the derivatives are, what the options are, what the swaps are, what the forward contracts are, and how the options are used for the purpose of risk management, and how the options can also be used for the purpose of earning extraordinary benefits, right? So I'm not suggesting that you must use options or you must use derivatives and you must get into the derivatives so as to earn extraordinary benefits. Returns. I'm definitely not suggesting, but as a student of valuation, you must know as to how the valuations or how the derivatives are used for the purpose of risk management and how the derivatives are used for the purpose of earning extraordinary benefits. And the fourth topic under this sixth topic on the valuation is valuation of other financial assets and liabilities. So how to do the valuation of brands, how to do the valuation of guarantees, right? So how to do the valuation of warranties. So there are many things that will need to be valued. So which are those other financial assets and liabilities and how those are valued? That is what you would need to have a good understanding about. कैसा होना चाहिए आपका डिग्री preparation? It has to be absolutely professional. Intangible assets, again remember friends, as I was telling you in the context of equity and debt market, and just to repeat, equity market is $100 trillion globally, debt market is $150 trillion globally. Likewise, please remember, most people think that businesses across the globe are run using tangible assets like land, building, plant and machinery, and things like that. Intangible assets are insignificant. And let me tell you, it is not so. Businesses across the globe are run definitely by use of the tangible assets. But more than the tangible assets, the businesses across the globe are run based on the intangible assets. Can you imagine a company like Coke? If company like Coke, if they have not to use Coke as a brand name, can you imagine how many bottles of Coke they would be able to sell globally? Hardly any. Same is the case with Pepsi. Same is case with the Nike. Same is the case with Adidas. Same is case with the Walmart. Same is the case with the McDonald. Same is case with Reliance. Same is the case with Tata. Same is case with everyone. Everyone. So remember the and interestingly, and that is what you must note. Interestingly, and that is what you must note. Many a times, a company may be having invaluable intangible assets, and ironically or interestingly, these intangible assets may not even reflect on the balance sheet of a company. But at times in the life of that business, these intangibles will also need to be valued. So, how the intangible asset, how a copyright, brand, trade name, and like that are to be valued, that is what you will need to understand and need to have a very sound understanding of that. Then, valuation application. There are certain situations distressed asset is to be valued. Startup entities, how do the valuation of startup entities, small and medium enterprise entities, कैसे करेंगे आप उनका वैल्यूएशन? साइक्लिकल फर्म है उसका वैल्यूएशन कैसे करेंगे? इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी है उसका वैल्यूएशन करेंगे? और आपको एक अपनी कंपनी में एक एसेट का कंपनी का आपको इंश्योरेंस कवर लेना है, उसके वैल्यूएशन कैसे करेंगे? सो दीज आर द वैल्यूएशन ऑफ द स्पेसिफिक एसेट्स. How do you do the valuation in case of specific assets? And that is where you will need to have professional understanding. Then you will have certain topics relating to the Companies Act, and you can see I'm saying hi because some of these topics like chapter 4 on shared debenture and capital, chapter 15 on mergers and amalgamation, chapter 17 which is on the registered valuers, and chapter 20 on winding up. Now these are topics that we don't deal with in our day-to-day life, and that's the reason I'm suggesting that you must have spent extra time, because ये जो 4 topics हैं, chapter 4, 15, 17 and 20, ये जो 4 chapter हैं Companies Act के, they have a direct bearing in real life valuations, and that is why you must have a good understanding of them. Then SEBI regulations, they are vast, and you can see 7 of them, and ICDR, LODR, they are so vast, and you can take a call as to how much time would you like to spend on them, considering the check input output ratio. Same is the case with the RBI and FEMA. In case of RBI or FEMA also you have the same thing, and that you will need to be aware. Income tax and the other statutes, just take a call as to how much time should you spend about them. And finally, case studies. Now friends, this is where I would say case studies you will get of 20 marks. And case studies, please remember, are the game changer or are the exam winner. If you are able to, there will be two case studies or 3 case studies aggregating to 20 marks. सो तीनों केस स्टडीज में मिला के 10 क्वेश्चन होंगे, और वो 10 क्वेश्चन 2-2 मार्क्स के होंगे, यानी कि कुल मिला के 20 मार्क्स का आपको केस स्टडीज आएगा. ये 3 केस स्टडीज को अगर आपने क्रैक कर दिया तो आप मान के चलिए कि आप एग्जाम से पास हो गए. एंड रिमेंबर, you will be able to crack these case studies only when your conceptual understanding of all the evaluation related topics that we have discussed just now is crystally clear. So how should be your preparation? Absolutely professional, because that is what is going to be match winner for you. So now friends, as I can see in my watch, it is exactly 5 o'clock, and as I had promised to you in the beginning of this session, ये जो second part है of strategy का, इसको हम कल cover करेंगे together with the discussion on IBC. So friends, this also I think I will talk to you about tomorrow. Questions also friends we will take tomorrow because it's already 5 o'clock. We will take questions about the evaluation, and we will take the questions about the IBC exam also tomorrow. So with this, I come to the close of my session. Thank you Rajesh bhai, thank you Ashish bhai, Thank you WIRC, and thank you all the participants to this exam. Incidentally, friends, since we are on this topic, uh, as Ashish Bhai was mentioning, I have a YouTube channel, and on that YouTube channel, I have uploaded about 850 videos covering various aspects of finance, valuation, insolvency, work-life balance, and life management. Those of you who would like, and topic wise, so all the topics which are forming part of the syllabus of valuation exam, except the topics relating to the general laws, everything else is available on my YouTube channel. So in case if you want further help in preparation of your exam, you can of course go to my YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and take the benefit of all the videos which are available. So thank you so much, and over to you, Akhilesh. Thank you.